Hello, my name is Ben Cathro and I'm a downhill racer from PinkBike Racing and a semi-professional overanalyzer. Today I'd like to talk to you about shoes, more specifically clipless shoes, and why the pros keep doing this. Clipless pedal systems are a method to mechanically attach the rider to the bicycle through a cleat attached to a specially designed cycling shoe which engages in a locking mechanism on the pedal for optimum foot security and power transfer from the legs, through the shoes, the pedals, the cranks, the chainring, the chain, the cassette, the wheel, the tyre, and finally into the ground. These clipless systems are a descendant of toe clips that used a cage at the front of the pedal which the rider would slot their foot into. As these old cages were called toe clips, this new system, where your shoes are mechanically clipped into the pedals, are called clipless. Despite the clear paradox in the official name, people still call clipless systems clips, or even SPDs, after the dominant Shimano pedaling dynamic system. Clips is an easier way to say it and everyone knows what you mean, so I'll refer to them as such. These clip systems initially became popular in road and track before moving over to mountain biking. Like everything else in mountain biking, a lot of the traditions and common knowledge from road and track came with the technology. One such piece of common knowledge is that you should ride with the balls of your feet over the axle, as this is the most efficient position. Finding out exactly why this was recommended takes you down a deep pit of conflicting information and poorly conducted studies with some very, very passionate people arguing their viewpoint. Well, if you look at the research, you'll see that pedal position has minimal impact on pedaling efficiency. I think you'll find that if you have a more forward position, you can have a smoother pedaling technique. I think you'll find that tradition has no basis in science, and if you look at the data, using the metadata, using pedal position to compensate, it's a terrible technique. Ass! I'm sure somewhere, at some point, someone did the calculations and figured out pedaling on the balls of the foot was the best. Or maybe on road bikes, if you have your feet any further forward than the ball, you'd accidentally kick your front wheel. I don't actually know, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. What I do know is that there are a buttload of professional mountain bikers who buck the old trend and do some interesting things with their setup. We should probably ask them why.
Historically speaking, I've ran my pedals very loose. I like to feel a very solid click to know I'm in, so I want them to have spring tension, but also I want to be able to get out easy, so I don't want my pins snagging on the stealth rubber. So that's where I took the knife and got rid of any areas where the pin's going to get stuck in the shoe. When the shoes get really worn in, awesome, they actually get grooves cut in the rubber, so I just go ahead and groove them from the get-go with a knife so that they don't get stuck at all.
So Amy, you used to run your cleats all the way forward just out of that's the way you'd always done it, or?
Yeah, just sort of where they were when I put my shoes on, I guess.
Okay, and now you've got them all the way back, and like, is there a reason why?
I think just to move my whole like center of gravity or like body position forwards a bit instead of just always being on my toes. So it's more able to like sink your heels.
So yeah, sliding the cleats back, it's like shifted you forward a wee bit.
Yeah, you got more like mobility to move your heels like in.
Does it work?
I think it works.
Amazing. Unbelievable. I actually can't believe this. He also has his cleats all the way back. Why? Why is everyone doing this? Why are you doing it?
When I was a little kid, first got my clip shoes, my buddy told me that road bikers ran them all the way forward.
Well, I'm not a road biker.
So what I did, I went bang all the way back. And it's never changed from that.
I run the cleats like very backward in the shoe, so kind of similar to the rest of the team, because I feel like when I have it like right in the middle of my foot, I have a better support and I can push a lot more, so I feel like I'm more precise when I'm on the bike. So yeah, this is exactly why I'm running it like this.
And what I wanted to know is where you run your cleats on the shoes, and I can see quite clearly they're on the bottom. So you run yours quite far back in the slots. What is your personal reason for that?
It's really easy to do and easy to remember.
So you just slam it tight
Yeah,
and
all the way back. This little Crank Brothers shield goes onto the second to last line, all the way down. Just give it a bit of a whack with an Allen key and away you go. I feel like if I have it up there, I'm just doing like calf races the whole way down. Whereas if I have it back here, it's not so much.
So, important question. all the people want to know, how did you set up your cleats and why? Well, I used to ride flat pedals when I was younger, so I really like having my foot and the pedal kind of like closer to the middle of the foot. It's just kind of where I like to put it. So to kind of match that, I run the cleat all the way back. Go.
I don't put really back. I prefer to put it more in the middle, so I can clip in really nice and off too. It's also good for me with the stability on the pedal like this. So yeah.
And I noticed you have some marks. So you have the pins all the way?
No, usually when I put the new cleats and new pedals on, I put pins a bit in, but not full flat.
Not all the way. Okay.
And when the shoes get used a bit, I put a bit
taller.
out.
Oh, so you wind them out as the shoe gets more worn. Cool. Very interesting. There's a good bit of personal preference in there, but I think I can draw some conclusions from this. First of all, there is not a massive amount of pedaling in downhill. There are some tracks where you don't pedal after the start sprint, and even on the more pedally tracks, riders will not be pedaling for more than 10% of a run. Tuning pedal setup to try and squeak a fraction of a percent improvement for less than 10% of a run is going to add up to a very small fraction of a second saving, and possibly hinder the other 90% of the run. So what's happening for the other 90 to 99% of the run in downhill? Well, riders are moving and manipulating the bike through the terrain to maintain control, absorb impacts, send jumps, and drive the bike into the ground to generate grip and speed. Crucially, this all happens with the rider mostly standing up, supporting their weight, and not mostly sat down like in other cycling sports. Now, imagine that a rider's foot is a lever with the pivot located in the ankle. The force applied to this lever depends on the terrain and the rider inputs, but the important variable is how far from the ankle pivot point these forces are applied to the lever, i.e. how far the pedal axle is from the ankle. The closer the pedal is to the pivot point of the ankle, the less force is transferred into the calf. Let's take some approximate figures to see how much of a difference this might make. Let's say a cleat mounted in the rear of the slots of a 510 Hellcat shoe are about 60 millimeters from the ankle's pivot point, and the point at which the Achilles tendon attaches to the heel is about 30 millimeters from the ankle pivot point. Just to support my 94 kilograms of weight, the calves need to each exert 94 kilograms of force to maintain a level foot position. The 510 Hellcats have about 35 millimeters of slot adjustment, so if we slide them all the way forward to approximately 95 millimeters from the ankle pivot, and look, I've forgotten how to do trigonometry and I'm not going to relearn now, we can see that each calf now has about 142.5 kilograms of force, which is 50% more. It's 50% harder for your calves to support the weight with the cleats forward compared to the back in this 510 Hellcat shoe. What? Like, when I was writing this script, I knew there would be a difference, but I didn't think it would be that much. And that's not all. Once you take into consideration the forces that downhill exerts on the bike, you realize the insane numbers involved. I've run accelerometers on my bike in the past and we saw peak values above 10 Gs. Now these numbers are only for fractions of a second during harsh landings or hitting sharp edges, and the 94 kilograms of body mass I'm carrying is not a solid object and will dissipate the forces through all the muscle groups in the body, but still, a 10 G impact will send 9,400 kilograms of force into the calf with a rear cleat position and 14,250 kilograms of force with a front cleat position. But ankle movement is an extremely important part of the body's suspension system. The best riders relax their calves, drop their heels, and allow the calf to act as suspension to reduce the forces transferred to the rest of the body. The further back a rider runs their cleats, the less travel this suspension system has. Should we calculate by how much? Yeah, go on then, why not? So, let's say an average rider has about 50 degrees of ankle float, give or take a few degrees, during normal riding conditions. With the cleat mounted in the rear position, you have about 52.3 millimeters of ankle suspension, versus the front cleat position, where you will have 82.9 millimeters of suspension. That's about 30 millimeters of difference. It doesn't sound like a lot, but imagine the difference between riding a 160mm enduro bike and a 130mm travel trail bike. It's definitely not nothing. So, front versus back cleat position can be viewed as a balance of force felt through the ankle and amount of efficient biomechanical suspension travel. The priorities may be different for each rider, but in downhill, the forces are high enough that most prefer the rear position. I mean, we've got a lot of suspension travel on our bikes already, so losing a few mil isn't the end of the world. It does raise the question though, can we go further back? Well, the limit is actually down to the shoe. The 510 Hellcat that I have here, they go pretty far back, and the Hellcat Pros go back even further. But if you go too far with the slots, a weak point is created here that with enough force can snap the sole and ruin the shoe. 510 have engineered one of the most rearward cleat positions of any other shoe while maintaining the strength of the sole, which is pretty sick. No more cutting the slots to get the cleat further back for me. Well, that's kind of all I wanted to cover today. There are many other aspects of cleat position, but I hope you found what I discussed interesting and possibly educational. Let me know if you disagree down in the comments or have any other inputs I haven't considered. I've been Ben Cathro from PinkBike Racing. Thanks for watching. Shoes. Ooh. Oh, it's 510. Ooh. Ooh.